Hello and welcome to Beyond the Gavel. I'm Andy Gavrin, Vice President of the Lower Merion Township Board of Commissioners. I'm joined today by our esteemed Township Manager, Ernie McNeely. Thanks for joining me today, Ernie.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you here. And I like starting these off with allowing our audience to get to know, some of the people in our township and in our government. So can you tell us just a little bit about you?
Sure. Originally from Western Pennsylvania, but relocated here in the East, and I worked for Westchester Borough as the manager for a little over 27 years, and only left Westchester to come to a great place like Lower Merion Township 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think we just recently celebrated an anniversary of 8 years here. Huh?
Indeed.
Excellent. So the important question: Steelers fan or Eagles fan?
Both. I've had the ability to adopt both.
I don't know if I can accept that as an answer because when they play each other, who are you rooting for?
Then it gets pretty close. Depends on who's having the better season.
Well, I think we're going to have a good season this year for the Eagles.
I think so too.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what is the role of manager? What do you do in that role?
So as a municipal manager, it's really two distinct roles. One is to be the chief operating officer, chief executive officer of the township organization to make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing and that all the departments are delivering the services they need to deliver. And the other side of the role is to take care of you, the commissioners, and make sure that you have the information, the background, the recommendations you need to set policy and make decisions for the township.
Yeah, and certainly do that incredibly well, which
you.
I think is part of, just recently we renewed your contract for 2 years. And at the board, wait a second. Yeah, the guys in the booth are telling me at the board meeting, President Sinai said some really great comments about you, and they want to cut away and show his comments if you don't mind for a couple minutes.
Sure.
We're gonna do that.
Sure.
I'm delighted that we in Lower Merion have what I consider to be the top municipal manager in the region. And if we think back to the period prior to 2022, which is the year 2021, it was an especially difficult time to be a township manager, and a really remarkable performance in this township where I think we did not miss a beat, and that really cannot be said for a lot of our peer communities. And while that is a testament to the hard work and diligence of every single employee in this township, it is also especially a testament to the man sitting to my right. And I think the board recognizes that. I think in general the board recognizes that there's a steady hand leading the township here. It can be seen in our fiscal situation, our AAA bond ratings mentioned, and also a manager who is supportive in implementing the policy positions of this board, and becomes incumbent on this board to deliver policy positions for the manager to implement. And we have a really terrific executive to do that. So I'm delighted that we are considering renewal of this contract and the pay for 2022 that's reflected in it.
I know President Sinai wanted to go even longer with his comments, but our meetings sometimes can drag on. But absolutely, what he said, we were all on board with, and we had talked about it before. And thank you for everything you do to make us look at least half decent, because that's not an easy job. So,
well, thank you. I appreciated the comments by President Sinai and the consideration by the board to renew my agreement. It really is an agreement. It's not a contract. In Pennsylvania, municipal managers aren't really allowed to have an actual contract, a binding contract. We always serve at the pleasure of the board, so you're free and under the agreement or otherwise to terminate a municipal manager at any point when you are dissatisfied with their service. Municipal manager agreements can only go from one reorganization meeting to the next, so that one Board of Commissioners is never binding the next in terms of who they may want to have on their staff. So it's not really a contract, but I certainly appreciate the board's action anyway.
Yeah, and well, since we can terminate you at any time, I haven't. No, my hope, and I know I speak for the entire board, is that you are here as long as you want to be. I think what you have done both before COVID and then we saw last year during COVID, that we did not miss a beat, and I know that's something that President Sinai had said. it's something that was really unique, I think, to our municipality, and a lot of that is on your shoulders, and thank you for all the great work on behalf of our township and all our residents.
I appreciate that, but a lot of that was also due to our great senior staff and our great group of employees who were willing to modify and adapt how they do things, and we were able to keep delivering our services throughout the pandemic thanks to that, and good decisions by you, the Board of Commissioners, allowing us to do things differently at times.
Yeah. So since you brought up our staff, I don't think a lot of people understand what the scope and the scale of Lower Merion Township, and can you tell us a little bit, give us an overview of what our staff is in the township?
Sure. We are a very big township with a township with a population of over 63,000 people. We have a big staff. We have 411 full-time employee positions. We have well over 100 part-time positions. Essentially, if you translated the part-time positions into full-time equivalents, we're right around 476 full-time equivalents. So it's a big staff, and we provide a lot of services. Lower Merion provides services that some municipalities simply do not, thanks to our staff and thanks to the wisdom of the board in wanting to deliver those types of services to our public.
Yeah, and I think what the public sees a lot is they certainly see public works in terms of roads and trash pickup. Sometimes see building and planning, I guess if they're coming in for permits. But I think a lot of our staff, they certainly see the police, but a lot of our staff they don't see. What are some of those other departments that I think or that you think are essential to running this township that maybe the residents don't see so much?
Residents would not see departments like human resources with that many employees. There's a lot of human resources work. They would not see finance that makes sure we have money and are paying our bills. They would not see those kind of support services. IT, we have an IT department that does a wonderful job protecting our computer systems and delivering our ability to do the work.
Yeah. No, and I think that, a lot of I forget the term, the malware that people are kind of holding up, whether companies or governments, that's something that's a real concern, and having a strong IT department really, I think, helps us in that regard. I know just from being in this role, our public works department, we only see, the tip of the iceberg of that department. That's a huge department. What are some of the functions that happen within public works?
So you're right. Public Works is one of our biggest departments. People think about Public Works, they think about roads and maybe the storm sewers on the streets. But the reality is that they're doing things like sanitary sewers underneath the ground, the storm sewers under the ground. They're maintaining a fleet of well over 200 vehicles. So they have a lot of functions that most people don't think about or see.
Yeah, definitely. We also have two roles that are recently vacated. Unfortunately, we have lost two great people one to retirement in our director of libraries, who was wonderful and innovative and brought a lot to our township, and our chief fire officer went up to the state to a really great role for him. But that's a huge loss after, I think Chaz was here for 173 years, give or take.
Something like that.
So what's the status on finding their replacements, and if you can kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, what are you looking for, and how do you find people for those roles?
Two very critical positions. We lost two very good department heads, as you said. We are in the process right now of interviewing for a new library director, and are moving on to a second round of interviews. We are scheduling a round of interviews for our chief fire officer. Both positions are critical positions. Libraries are a big department in the township with 30-some full-time employees and 80 to plus part-time employees. So these are critical roles, and those are critical services for our residents.
Definitely.
When you think about fire protection and our wonderful libraries, 6 of them across the township.
Yeah. So can you explain? I know when I first came on the board, the fire service kind of blew my mind a little bit, how it works, and can you explain how that works for the residents?
Fire service is such a critical service, and most people don't fully realize that a great deal of the fire service is provided by volunteers. volunteers who go volunteer at one of our 6 or 7 volunteer fire departments, if you count Narberth, who also helps to protect part of Lower Merion. They do have some paid staff, but most of it is done by volunteers. And while the township provides them with substantial funding, they still need support from the community in terms of their letter drives and their donations. So it's the volunteer fire service saves our taxpayers millions and millions of dollars here in Lower Merion.
Yeah. No, and all of those firefighters, the volunteer and the few paid ones we have as well, I mean, they're risking their lives for the benefit of the township and all of our residents, and can't say enough wonderful things about them, and supporting them is essential.
Very true.
Thank you for bringing that up. So as we head into our break, we have a multitude of sponsors who are dying to get onto this show and catch this audience. Quickly, in your mind, what makes Lower Merion special? What is it that's great about this place?
It truly is, I think, the diversity of Lower Merion. Lower Merion Township has such diversity in terms of neighborhoods and wealth and include a racial diversity. We have a little bit of everything in Lower Merion Township, and you combine that with the beauty of the 24 square miles that we exist. The parks, all the resources that we have makes Lower Merion special.
Yeah, I think all of us would agree with you there. Well, it looks like we're running out of time for our first segment, but stay tuned. We have a lot more to talk about with our wonderful township manager, Ernie McNeely. After these messages, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Beside the Gavel. I'm your contractually obligated host, Andy Gavrin, joined by our non-contractually obligated township manager, Ernie McNeely. Thank you for not leaving during the break and coming back and joining us. So, Ernie, a lot of the, I guess, questions or concerns we get a lot with residents. Some of the more common things are people speeding constantly through neighborhoods on our main streets, Lancaster, Montgomery. Sometimes potholes in the streets or roads that need to be paved, and a lot of other issues. What can people do about that, and how should they kind of reach out to the township if they need to deal with some of those issues?
That's a very good question, and there's a lot of misunderstanding in the public about what a township has control of and what we can do. We are a creature of the state, and so we are essentially allowed to do only those things which are in our code adopted by the state and pretty much nothing else. We also have a division of responsibilities, and we are preempted from getting into certain areas. When it comes to roads, we have a certain right to our township roads, but a lot of our main roads that you mentioned, Lancaster Avenue, for example, is a state highway. And so the township really has no say over that and has no control over that. We do not fix the potholes on a state highway. The state does that. We do not control when the utilities choose to dig up a state highway. The state issues those permits. And conversely, we control our local roads. So certainly when the public has issues with a road, they should contact our Public Works Department, and the easiest way to do that is with our app, LM Report It, as you know. But even when you're reporting something like a state highway to our Public Works Department, we will turn around and report it to PennDOT. We won't force you, but folks should understand that in many cases we don't have that control. Local government in PA is a strange entity. There's over 2,500 units of local government. That means there's a local government for about every 5,000 persons in Pennsylvania, which is not very efficient.
Yeah.
Fortunately, here in Lower Merion, we're a lot more efficient in that we have one local government for 63,000 people, so we're more efficient there. But we still have our divided roles.
Yeah, and I'm. You may be one of the first people who said the 14 of us on the board are an efficient group, but maybe you're talking about the staff and not us. But either way, I think you're right. Obviously, having that scale really helps. And one thing you did talk about, the LM Reported app, I think is really important. I found, when I use it, I've reported a pothole a couple times, and it's been filled immediately, or a light out on, one of the street lights are out. I've actually, not only just to test it and make sure it's not just, the commissioner's sending it in, we got to get to it, but had, a neighbor do it, and no difference in response time. So, yeah, it really is a great tool.
The beauty of that app is that it's funneled right to the department that's responsible, as opposed to sending an email, hoping you're emailing the right person, and then eventually having it moved on to the right department.
Yeah, definitely. So another set of issues we sometimes hear about are kind of between neighbors, whether it's noise, light issues, light coming into the yard, it's my tree or his tree fell onto my yard, or whatever that may be. What should people do in that situation?
Those are common issues that folks like to bring to the township, and in many cases we're simply not in it. Disputes between neighbors are a civil matter between the two neighbors. We always try to do what we can where we have any authority. Trees, like you say, if your neighbor's tree limb is dead and hanging over your property, you have every right to take it off at your property boundary. We don't have any necessarily right to say you got to remove a limb. If we have a very dangerous situation where our inspectors have identified a tree that's in imminent danger of causing somebody harm, we have an ability to act in that place. But in many of those cases, light shining from your back porch into somebody's neighbor's yard is between neighbors, and it's not something the township can really control.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Talking about trees, there are townships. One of my neighbors just learned from having a conversation with me, there are township trees and there are private trees. Can you tell a little bit about the difference, and when should people contact the township and when they shouldn't?
There is a difference, and the township owns trees that are within the right-of-way, and they're on an inventory that we have updated several times, and if it's a township tree, we take care of it. When it's dead, we take it down. But if the tree is beyond the right-of-way on private property, it's a private tree.
Right. Yeah. So what does a right-of-way mean for those who don't know what that is?
That's a good question too. Right-of-way, some folks might think of that as just a paved cartway, but no, the right-of-way actually extends in many cases beyond the sidewalk and literally a foot or two, several feet into somebody's front yard. Right-of-ways differ depending on how they were laid out and when they were laid out, but typically they are more than the paved surface, and in fact more than the sidewalk area if a sidewalk exists.
Gotcha. So a sidewalk is typically in the right-of-way. Does that mean that the resident doesn't have to worry about it if the sidewalk's in front of their house and it snows, or is that?
Unfortunately, no. If the property owner has a sidewalk along the public street, then it's their responsibility to take care of that sidewalk, repair it, shovel it, and take care of it in the year-round.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of what we talk about are issues and complaints from residents. As anyone in customer service, and in this case constituent service, knows, 99% of the calls you'll get are, this went wrong, or I have this problem, or I have this complaint. But every once in a while you'll get a commendation, right? Somebody did such a wonderful job. I want to let you know about that. What should, if a township employee, and it happens every day, and hopefully when it does happen, people call and say, hey, so-and-so employee, whether it's in public works or building and planning or anyone else that's facing our residents, does an incredible job. Should a resident contact the township and, praise that person or thank that person, or what should they do in that case?
We actually love to hear it when folks appreciate the good service some of our township employees provide, and when they let us know, we make sure that the employee knows, and we make sure that the department head knows, and it goes into their personnel file. And we also have a system here in the township where employees, it's called Way to Go. Every month we have a series of nominations where employees are nominated for a Way to Go. They get a small prize if they happen to their name happens to be pulled randomly. But we communicate to the entire workforce who all was nominated for a Way to Go every month. so
great.
that folks that get those types of letters from residents thanking them for great service usually will find its way into a way to go as well.
Gotcha. So residents can email, send a letter, call. What are any of those options work?
Any of those options work. Yes.
Okay, and I guarantee that our incredible people behind the scenes right now are putting up on our screen right now as we talk all of those contact and the places where you can send those letters. So thank you to you wonderful employees for doing that. Another way to contact or another point of contact for our residents is the police. We have a non-emergency police number, and obviously for emergencies, calling 911. When should residents be calling 911 or calling the non-emergency number, or what should they do in that case?
Really, if it's anything of any type of urgency, they really should call 911. They shouldn't hesitate because they think maybe this, while it feels urgent, but it's not that important, it's not a crime, nobody's been hurt. They shouldn't hesitate to use the 911 system because that it really is the fastest way to get a police officer to the scene and to address something.
Yeah.
If it's something more administrative or informational in nature, then use the non-911 regular number. But any kind of urgency, don't hesitate to call 911.
Yeah, and if you're confused or you're not sure, call 911.
Call 911.
Yeah, definitely. So we've just been talking about how residents can contact the township. Switching gears a little bit, how can residents get involved in the township? What opportunities are there for those? I mean, we have such brilliant people in our township. That's one thing that we are blessed with, having residents, such a, as you talked about, diversity of experiences and skill sets. If somebody says, I want to get involved and give back to the township, are there opportunities to do so?
There are many opportunities. Actually, the commissioners, you have created a number of boards, commissions, advisory bodies, and all of those entities are always seeking interested persons who would like to volunteer their time. And they range from subjects from people that are really smart on our pension advisory board to folks that are interested in the environment on our to folks that are interested in shade trees. Of course, we have our planning functions that need volunteers for planning commission, zoning hearing boards. So there's a lot of opportunities to become involved in local government. And of course, they could also go right to the top and run for office and try and become one of the commissioners for the township.
And if anyone from Ward 6 is listening, please let me know if you want to do that. I am happy to talk to you about that and hand the keys over. It is such a rewarding, it truly is a rewarding job, and so great to be able to give back and be part of the community. Whether you're involved as a commissioner or whether you're involved on one of our boards, I can't say enough. Obviously as an award-winning interviewer on this show, I've probably covered everything, but is there anything else that you do want to add that we haven't touched on yet?
I think it's worth saying that you as commissioners spend a whole lot of time. While our volunteer boards and commissions meet monthly mostly, you guys spend a lot of time on township business, and hopefully the residents all appreciate that effort and hours you put in.
Thank you. As much fun as it's been, unfortunately we're out of time. Ernie, thank you for joining us for this edition of Beside the Gavel. Thank you. I'm Andy Gavrin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.